Also note that we have a stand-in attorney today for a different face of it's Mary Stroh, and ask her all the same tough questions you asked Mike, I assume. And we'll go ahead and move with the approval of the August 11th, 2015 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, it's approved. And then the approval of the September 2015 claims dockets.
So moved.
Steve, what was your question on claims that you emailed?
She answered it. I wanted to ask. I don't remember what they were now. There, one of them is on the terminal. I got disorder. I get confused on the encumbrances and then on the deferrals. And what it was the terminal, which I thought we had encumbered. But am I right, Brian? Or
You're
saying that right?
Yeah, you were talking about from the financial standpoint. I don't remember what the question was on the claims. I think
What was that?
The one on the claims.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the profit and loss statement.
I don't recall, to be quite honest, what it was. I don't see anything really out of the ordinary.
No, my comment on the P&L is the difference, and I thought the terminal remodel had been encumbered and hadn't been.
Yeah, we had encumbered it, but whenever we do that, we put it essentially on that P&L to
Right.
show that we.
And that's why I was getting confused.
Yeah.
Did you get an answer to what I was looking
Yeah.
for? Okay. I second Steve's motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now for old business, discussion request for action on the Wellsboro RFP. So I decided a month ago to put this on this meeting to basically try and get some movement forward here with the RFP process. And John's here, Representative Fairbanks. As of late last week, I received a request from the mayor for us to table this, and let me talk about the reason why. I think the inclination of the board at this point is to basically not move forward with the RFP, or at least that being the recommendation. However, as a result of the amount of work that's gone into this and potential future plans that may happen, the request is, one, she'd like a chance to still meet with Fairbanks and the rest of your group you're representing prior to any formal action. And then second, if the board does not move forward with this plan, we'd like to have an alternative plan put into place or something else to move along with. And so the request at this point is, instead of taking action on this item, would be to hold a joint special meeting of the airport board and the redevelopment commission, likely sometime late next week. That meeting has not yet been set, but intent to be late next week. And to basically take action at that meeting so that, because the redevelopment commission is heavily involved both with whatever the results are of this, and they'd be funding studies, they'd be funding development, infrastructure, they'd like to have some discussion on this, and so it's easiest if we just all meet at the same time to kind of make that happen. So that is the request of Mayor Brown, for us for this action.
Do we have any hint of what their concerns, alternatives, whatever it might be?
Well, I think the alternatives would be to basically just go at it on your own, essentially, the development of the land through some city, initiative as opposed to outside the way we discussed development taking it off. But that there's not a formal plan put into place to do that yet. Does the board have any questions or discussion? John?
If we go ahead with this item, what's the harm? Well, you've agreed with me there.
I agree with you to bring it up to the board. I mean, I can't put words in the mouth of the board, but I guess the intent is, I think for such a large project and for something that's so important to the community, to basically reject the only plan that's out there without some semblance of what we're going to do as an alternative, I think is seen as not an overall positive thing. So the intent is, let's just do it at a special joint meeting. Let's have everybody there. She has another chance to meet with John and his group, have final discussions pending, anything happening over the next week, and then we can kind of move forward with the process at that point.
So we're just extending the RFP basically by table
For another week, yeah.
We're not doing it.
Yeah.
So there's no.
And to ditto yours, there doesn't appear to be any
don't think there's harm either way.
Yeah. I don't see any negative in the joint meeting at the end.
This is what I was asked, and so that's what I'm in.
I would make a motion we table it until we have another meeting. RFP.
Yeah, we're going to include the joint meeting with redevelopment. Sure.
Are you good?
Well, you don't know what's gonna change, just table it, and then whatever happens, happens. Don't complicate the motion.
Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any public discussion? You don't have to say it.
No, I mean, from our standpoint, we've been involved in this for a year and a half. We're ready to continue discussion. It means tabling for another week or two. That's fine with us. I mean, we would like to have a voice in that going forward. I guess my question back to this board is, what is the board's position on the offer that's on the table today? I mean, I understand the tabling is fine, but where does the board stand? Because we haven't gotten any official response back from you on the offer that's on the table. And we'd like to kind of see where you are, if it's price, if it's timing, if it's the development plan, if it's the vision, whatever. We'd like to kind of get some feedback at some point. And whether that's before or after this discussion with the redevelopment commission, we just like to get some feedback on our proposal.
Well, speaking for myself, the price was much lower than expected.
Okay? We
Yes.
have heard that officially from the board.
You're speaking for me also, and I mean, we sold land, we know what the market value is.
Well, that's
It's about 4 times what the offer was.
Yeah, I think the challenge of all of this, as I kind of resonated early on, was the interest of the board is one thing, the interest of the city is something else, and so you're walking the line between the two. And the intent of, I guess, holding this out there was to give time for knowing that we have an idea of what the land is worth. It's way higher than I think what you're probably reasonably going to be expecting to pay for it. There's probably some gap in the middle, but where the rest of the city and all that comes in is what kind of things they can work with you through to kind of make up that delta. And whether that's through development, city council, whoever the bodies are involved, private entity, I'm not sure, but to give time for all those things to meld, to kind of come up with a final package, and if the airport board, or if those sides come back and say, yeah, this is good, let's make this work, come back to the airport board and give us the incentive or rationale to move forward kind of with the process. I haven't gotten that feedback from the other folks I'm talking to either, but like I said, maybe things have changed, so that's just what we're.
Well, just from our standpoint, we're more than happy to have a voice at the next level. Once we get some official feedback on if it's a price issue, because we just need to know what that is and where you think it should be. I mean, Steve says it's 4 times as much.
I'm just saying what the market value is of the land we sold, so that's kind of set.
Yeah, but okay, and I'm not going to get in that discussion here because market value is on that piece of ground, we believe is probably higher than the true market value of the balance of the property, but we can get to that point. We just need to know, where you're coming back, where's the rest of that ground really worth to you? And then we also submitted a replacement income scenario through Brian, which we've actually talked about. So we'd like to know where if that's even the most important piece, is the replacement income, or is it a cash price? Because that still has not been determined. We need to come up with a number and hand you a check, that's one thing, but we know from our conversations with you, that it's really more of a replacement income scenario that is more important to you, or it seems to be more important.
I would not make that assumption.
Well, we've been told. I'm not making an assumption.
I'm not telling you,
Okay.
from my perspective.
Okay. We're fully ready to continue the conversation.
I'd say it's probably worthwhile then to be seen with a subset of the board, because obviously we can't meet as a board.
Or a joint board and redevelopment commission. You suggested that. We're willing to sit in and
I suggested that,
listen in
and
on that.
I would encourage you to come to that meeting. So, and talk to the mayor in the meantime, because she's the one setting that up. She's the head of the redevelopment commission. So, any other public discussion? Okay, there was a motion second table. say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. That shall be tabled. Next on new business is discussion request approval of the Lifeline hangar usage request.
And over the last couple of months, we've been talking with Jim Ogilvy and his hangar, and Lifeline is needing a location, essentially to be able to house their flight crew and crew. And they typically were doing it in inclement weather only, so we would allow them to use the terminal building for restrooms and things. They're now looking for a more permanent option. You should have been here to address the board today, however, I haven't seen him today. So, I don't know much more than that, but they're looking to redo the hangar, to have people stay in there essentially 24 hours a day. We have talked with Nick, our consultants, as far as FAA regs and anything like that. They are essentially emergency personnel, so they would be allowed to do what they're asking to do. That's
Who
what
did you
I-
expect to have here today?
Well, Jim Ogilvy is the hangar's owner, so it's essentially it's his request to utilize the hangar to house those people. And I assume that they would also be here as well. So if you would like, we will see them, like they would, I don't think that they're in any major hurry, so if we would like to table to the next meeting, it's fine with me, but
What's the,
that's
what's the ask, just for our approval?
just for your approval. And at the end of the day, you probably don't even need to give the approval, but I want to let you know that this is something that's come up and a request has been made to allow this to happen.
I assume that they keep the helicopter moving too.
Yes.
Is there any reason, I mean, is there anything we don't know that we can't vote yes to?
Nothing that nothing, no red flags other than the fact that they would be staying there 24 hours a day, which typically you don't see on airfields too much other than our personnel. But again, we work through that as far as emergency personnel.
I have no issues voting.
I mean, I
So
assume
we can always
You
unvote.
can always revoke it in the
Yeah,
future if that's a
exactly.
problem.
Should we see the plan before we move ahead with that, Steve?
I'm not sure that they're going to change anything. They already have facilities there. It's already all built. Because they stay there now, like I said, they're well.
I think they were going to add in an additional restroom facility because apparently there are men and women, so there was some definition genders in there. They need to add an additional restroom or shower facility. So other than that, it's all within the boundary of the hangar.
They sublease the whole direct.
As long as they maintain the right set of words to describe it, that's to go around telling people that they're living in the airport. So it's a pilot's lounge, emergency pilot's lounge, something like that. It's a living thing.
That's incidental area or something like that.
It's their workplace.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, it's like the firemen, it's their workplace. So I don't know how the firemen say it, you know.
I don't have any issues. I mean, it's emergency helicopter operation. Airman. It does not set precedent for people living in hangars.
Yeah, I think if we have an issue in the future, we'll just deal with it.
Exactly.
So I make a motion.
I move is to accept, what will we asking?
I guess just for the board's acceptance of the fact that this will be happening in this hangar, so a request for hangar modification to allow for Lifeline's usage, emergency personnel usage.
I move that we accept Mr. Ogilvy's request to modify his hangar for air lifeline purposes.
I'll second. Any other discussion? Discussion to come? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Discussion and location for indoor sports facility.
I have been working with, it's a letter, drafted up and given to us by Chip Orbit, who's here. He's with the Columbus Soccer Express Club, and they are requesting a parcel of ground. So about the future land use plan, so I can go to that, so everybody will be able to see it here. So there's an L-shaped portion of ground just above where Cycle currently has their building. It's located right here, consisting of 4.89 acres. It is zoned for indoor sports complex, like they're requesting here. So their request is for that parcel of ground. I think probably people are aware that we also have an option, site has an option on that ground as well, so we have to figure out whether or not that's going to be the case or not. This is a formal request, and I think Chip just also wanted to address the board and kind of let them know how things are going, the intent overall of the building, the usage of the building.
Sure. Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to address the board today. We're really excited about this prospect. It's something that we've been working on as a club, oh gosh, for 5 or 6 years. I could give you the history on it, but you really don't want to know that. Suffice it to say, we've had really good opportunity to work with Brian and his staff in trying to find a location that really fits the need for us and the need for the community. There is a huge need for indoor facilities during the winter month, which are traditionally October through April. And we're really going to take the bull by the horns and hopefully, with your approval, move forward with our own facility. We have secured a sponsor for the building, title sponsor for it, which is very good for us and helps move us forward closer and closer to where we need to be. The proximity, as I mentioned in the letter, being right next to the fields, is just, just adds more fuel to the fire when people come into the complex. They can see the facility sitting there with the name on it. We are behind the times, quite frankly, with other communities of our size and smaller that have indoor facilities already. Currently, we spread out all over Columbus and, even over into Bloomington and up into Center Grove area to find indoor facilities during the winter. It would not be uncommon that if you went out to Saraland Monday through Thursday, that you would see soccer being played on the basketball courts, which is certainly not a very good representation of what the turf is like. The need is there. We also know that there are additional groups that would be wanting to use an indoor facility. You've probably heard that in years past, I know Frank, you have, about building a larger indoor facility downtown. The need is there. We know that. Brian's had some conversations with some folks that are looking for it. We also believe that as IUPUC continues to grow and expand their sports programming, that they'll be looking for indoor facilities as well, and this would be right in the middle of that campus atmosphere. Ivy Tech certainly would be more than happy to come out, or more than happy to have Ivy Tech come out and use that facility as well from that standpoint. And for that matter, John, we could even hit golf balls in there because we'll have nets up from that standpoint. So it really is, while it is a soccer complex, it is a multi-use facility that will just be a square turf area where we can actually have as many people out there as we want working on their games, and then other facilities being, other sports being utilized in there, and even potentially band practice being held in there if they need a place to come. From a safety aspect, one of the things we don't have out there is a very good place for people to go and seek shelter in case of storms. We do get those warnings fairly quickly, within 15 miles, and currently we have to tell people to go sit in their cars. This location would really be very good because you could simply walk into the back of the facility during stormy weather, and we could house a lot of people in there in a very safe environment. Our club consists of 350 players right now, continues to grow each and every year. We formed an alliance with the Bloomington Club as well as the Center Grove Club, bringing even more players circulating in those three communities. So the time is very good for us. The site presents excellent opportunity for us, and I'd be happy to answer any questions cooperation might be. We have had some conversations with SIO, and they have been agreeable to have discussion about that. So we have
That's
had
really
that.
an ar- Yeah, and that's really in the airport team at this point.
Right.
They are lessee at this point, so they hold a lease from the airport on that property, so.
No, I understand, I'm just asking as a matter
Yeah.
of making everyone a win-win situation. If that hadn't happened, I would encourage you to do it.
Right.
Because right now, you would be farther away from soccer fields if you have to go to the secondary location, or the alternative location, correct?
That's correct.
We've identified the secondary location that we're also trying to determine as well.
Secondary in addition to what you sent out last week?
No, that is.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But that's one parcel removed from soccer fields.
Correct.
But still within the park.
Oh, yeah, no.
We've looked at other areas outside of, the airport property, and they're not near as ideal as what it would be for us, and would just help us further put a footprint and a stamp on the facilities out there, which, if you're not aware, we have some of the best facilities in the state of Indiana. We've hosted quite a few tournaments. We really anticipate hosting the state cup finals this year, which has been up at Grand Park the last 2 years. The job that Park and Rec does on those facilities is just tremendous. And they're being used by multi-sports. It's not just soccer. You've got rugby out there. You've got cricket. You've got all kinds of things going on. Frisbee. It is a park.
Don't misunderstand me, I would love to see that. I just would like to make sure all the avenues are being pursued that you can have.
Totally understand. And we have had discussions with SIHO about what their intent is for that land moving forward.
I think, on top of all those things on the airport side, that really is going to drive interest to the airport when essentially no one else is here. That's the times when we're slowest are the evenings, are the weekends, which is when a facility like this would be utilized the most.
Yeah, it's a win-win for everybody.
I believe so.
Exactly the kind of thing we're looking for.
Yeah.
My only problem is fireworks show on the Fourth of July is the high point of the year. So I don't think I backup location.
Well, we really thought we'd be able
I love fireworks.
we look at that as a revenue stream because we figure we can, lease a lot of space in our facility for folks to come in and have dinner and then sit outside our building and watch fireworks.
Well, isn't the launch location just,
It's just
Although,
it's just north and west.
Maybe
of
they'll
that.
shift it a little bit.
We'll have flame retardant material available for all.
Okay, so from the board's standpoint, the next thing that we need to do is submit this to SADO.
Okay, so we've received a request.
Yeah.
We're gonna, once I have no other request in the land. Okay. Hopefully move forward.
And I think we'll definitely be able to move forward by the time the next airport board meeting is.
Okay. Any other discussion, any questions? No formal action. Yeah. Any questions from the public? Okay, discussion and request for approval on the Wellsboro deed of release.
We have received a formal deed of release from the FAA with a request in the letter that the airport board specifically include this into the next airport board meeting with a resolution adopted by the authority accepting the terms of deed of release. After speaking with Mike on this, he said that a formal motion by the airport board to accept the deed of release, which I think you probably, I know Caleb has seen and accepted this from a formal standpoint. This is the formal acceptance of this document. It is the exact same thing that we've been looking at over the last few months. The FAA, along with the DOD, has agreed that the 36 acres of the Wellsboro property is of no more value to them. They are giving it to us to do what we choose to do, making sure that the net proceeds of that continue for the maintenance and operation of Columbus City Square. So that's what your deed of release is requesting.
Did this ever delay construction?
No. I hear they're quite busy down there.
Wow.
There are a lot of concrete and steel is going on.
That's amazing.
questions? So the action here is to approve the,
And approve for Caleb to sign that deed release.
So that again,
Specifically for Caleb to approve the deed of release and for Caleb to sign that document.
So, I move we authorize Caleb to sign the deed of release.
Second.
all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So, goes. Discussion request for approval on the West Ramp rental policy.
In the front of your packet, you will find the West Ramp rental policy. You also were emailed this policy a few days ago with your reporting information. Typically on the West Ramp, we've never charged any entity to utilize the West Ramp. It's always kind of been a service that we've been able to provide. We're seeing some long-term issues with the West Ramp and the amount of usage. One of them is getting out, but two that we're not putting back into the facility. We also have a significant need for additional volunteers for Aviation Day or any other aviation-related items that we have. So we wrote a West Ramp rental policy, and again, I know that we've seen a lot of these West Ramp requests come up to the airport board in the past. This is one of the documents that we can be able to supply to anyone, and then they will have essentially a checklist of what they have to do to be able to utilize that West Ramp. We have determined a West Ramp rental fee as a per day fee, with also charitable organizations, government organizations, and not-for-profits will either be given a 50% discount on that fee or opt for in-kind compensation. We are requesting for 4 hours of volunteer time per day of usage. So say like Indiana State Police, we use it for 2 weeks out of the year. So then they would be able to provide us 5 volunteers for any time that we would request them. We've given them 45 days notice as to your request. They would be able to request, we would be able to request from them. It also discusses all of the insurance coverage that the airport has previously just always told individuals, but this is now in a document. They will provide information as well as a sketch to us. I think the sketches on here we have examples of where they can and cannot utilize on that West Ramp. Essentially everything north of the drain and all the way east to DC3. Everything in that area, a fairly significant area, they could be utilized.
My one thought is that we should probably continue to make it available at no charge to our local police and fire.
Yeah, and the good thing about our local police and fire is they're always more than willing to assist us in aviation. We've never had an issue with them doing that, but I can certainly write that in if I would like to.
And my, when I say local, I mean not just city police, but sheriff. So Columbus Police, Thumb County Sheriff, the City of Columbus Fire Department, and all the township and volunteer fire departments. Anything that's local to Thumb County in terms of law enforcement, firefighting, or EMS, I think we should extend that consideration towards it. Now, if Indiana State Police want to come in, I mean, that's different. Could make the same argument, I suppose, but we are in the Thumb County. This kind of falls with us giving the land to the fire department for Station 2.
Which the FAA did not approve today.
Yeah, you're right.
We have about 17 organizations out of the course of any given year to utilize the West Ramp.
All organizations or?
All organizations. I see you probably just mentioned half of them. What do you say? Sorry, I don't know what half of them. You know, we have Greenwood, Speedway, ISP, Excess Police, Shelby County, Johnson County. So,
Is the amount of money we would get from this really going to make a difference?
No.
Or are we going to create unnecessary hard feelings?
We don't believe that it's a money. We have requested them to volunteer for Aviation Day this year. And while they agreed verbally that they would agree to volunteers, they didn't come through. They've all had this discussion about volunteers. If we can get volunteers, there's no way we can do something like aviation day in the future. So it's the goal not to make the money, the goal is really to get the volunteers, because that's, and I think that's where you see these government organizations are gonna be more willing to do volunteer hours than would be to pay for it.
Makes sense.
Well, maybe we.
Just talking to them, and again, they've agreed to it in the past, they just didn't come through.
Maybe we incorporate that into the rental agreement versus dollar amounts for municipal law enforcement, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe their rental cost is volunteer hours.
And we've given them that option. You can see, in number 2, charitable organizations, government organizations, and not-for-profits will be given a 50% discount on rental rate and operating.
I understand that, I'm saying maybe that is our rental agreement with them versus even talking about dollars.
Just a straight,
Yeah.
in-kind compensation.
I don't know, I really feel like trading for service is such a sticky mess.
Yeah, it sounds a little sketchy.
I mean, it's one thing if you're a business, but as a municipality, it just, I mean, it feels so odd to do that.
Any comment on that, council, or is in kind?
I mean, it feels like Coke funds to me.
I did have Mike review it, so I'm sitting on there.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, in-kind compensation, for volunteer hours, the concern would be on the employer's side and not our side.
Yeah, I don't agree from a, maybe even a legal's perspective, it's more from a, kind of, how do you ensure that when you are essentially asking for people, volunteers, but you may not call on them for 9 months or 11 months, that they're gonna show up, well, the next time we will deal with it. It just feels like, and I mean, I may be wrong, I haven't dealt with these folks directly, but, you know, being on the board of works, I see that our police department pays money for services all the time for things, and it seems like a $250 fee is pretty insignificant for most law enforcement offices, you know, for training. They're buying uniforms and sending officers all the time. I mean, see, it feels cleaner just to have a set fee, even if it's a discounted rate for law enforcement, and then somehow figure out later to put that money aside where we can pay for law enforcement officers to come run aviation day. You know, basically it's a wash. I'm just resonating a personal opinion here. It just feels strange.
Whatever we do, we don't want to create a whole lot of effort, energy, and paperwork, and back and forth. I mean, I don't want to say leave it as it is, and let municipal entities use the ramp for free.
We've been doing it.
No, I
You know,
mean,
and the rate, I mean, yeah, one of the goals, you know, I think of the future of what we're trying to do out there as well, is to be able to put money back into the rate. I mean, if you've been over there a while,
You're not going to do it with these kind of dollars.
no, we're not. I mean, well, over the course of an entire year, we may be able to replace the panel. You know, dollars.
That's.
Oh, I know, it's.
And
It's a drop in the bucket.
rather than trying to recruit volunteers, let's look at it a different perspective. Let's budget to pay people to do these things. Rather than trying to go through this agony of getting
I
volunteers.
mean, I know how difficult that is, you know, in terms of planning the next event.
Yeah. Well,
I'd rather pay for the police officers to be here out of the funds we raised from doing this, you know.
I'd love to do it, we literally waited till the last second, and 3 police agencies didn't show, and 1 police agency that showed up didn't do what we asked them to do.
Well, but if you're paying, you asked them to come after you know, 9 months ago, you let them run around for free on the ramp, so
Yeah.
they had no incentive to.
Well, your other option is the volunteer hours have to occur in advance.
I mean, I'm more than welcome, you know, if we want to table this for the day and have additional discussion on it.
I wouldn't mind doing the volunteer for the local folks, you know what I mean? I don't think you have any, I don't think you have any problem getting Columbus Police Department to have people show
No,
up.
we don't.
Yeah, but, you know, when you start talking about basically out of the county, I think it starts becoming much more difficult to.
To use,
Yeah,
allow
I
them to
mean,
use
you're
it.
saying $250 for a training event for a dozen police officers? I mean, I think if they're hard pressed to come up with that, then we're gonna have problems we're gonna have to deal with.
It puts some structure, I think you need some structure, at least if you have this, you've got some basis to work.
Sure.
Did something, and then you can always make an exception for somebody volunteer, but I'd be in favor of having a consistent document. So if somebody says, where's the cost rate for the restaurant, you can tell them.
Oh, yeah, just feel like the volunteering in lieu of is a special option to engage with people who feel like they're going to pull through. Otherwise, I wouldn't offer it. Personally.
Yeah, the 4-hour shift, one person for a 4-hour shift just doesn't seem significant enough.
Well, people utilize it more than one day. Like I said, ISP's out there for 2 weeks, Speedway's out there for a week, Speedway's out there for a week, yeah. So, I mean, it would, we actually want 8-hour a day per usage. When we started running some figures, we thought that may be a little bit steep, especially when you're talking about ISP for 2 weeks. That'd be essentially 10 man hour, 10.
My concern was not specific to the number, but just to the idea, I mean, if you have 2 8-hour shifts, I still don't think it would be a significant enough component of this overall thing. Than having in there, is that what you're saying?
That's really hung up on the hourly thing, volunteers, but I think if you have an agreement, that they agree to this, I think they have some ownership commitment to it. We don't like it as volunteer, it's just a word of mouth agreement. So, when they sign this, they know that they're going to be required
To do something.
to pay money. Fair volunteer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the alternative is if they don't follow through, you can just send them a bill, send them a bill.
It's actually wrote out like that.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
I was thinking it's really.
I think, again, it just feels strange, because knowing the gap of somebody uses the ramp, 9 months later, we wanted to volunteer somebody, well, that time maybe the chief has changed, and the shifts have all overlapped, and nobody remembers signing anything, and, oh, we're not gonna show, we didn't agree to that.
That's what they agreed to.
I know,
That's what they signed.
versus just making them pay $350
I'm swinging around kind of like
It doesn't have to be decided.
I think it's
something.
I think they're really taking a risk on it. I mean, ultimately, if they don't follow through.
But then they can utilize it.
That's right, yeah.
I mean, like I said, that's,
Just take the volunteer thing out, totally.
Oh, I don't like you to take it out. Just, you gotta be conservative about who you allow to do it.
I think it gives Brian the authority to operate.
I've spoken my piece.
okay. You know what, we'll table it for this meeting, and we'll get back to it in October. We'll try to come up with some alternatives if you'd like. And again, maybe
Sticky
they can
thing to me, Dan. I
alternative.
think it's a sticky thing to leave that in. I kind of agree on the income.
Whatever. Any experience with what it might lead to, or just? doesn't
No, I
fit
think we
business?
have to check on legal aspects of that income. Maybe what we can do with that before we say yes to that. I'm getting the head shake down here.
Well, I don't think that, we can certainly do that. I don't think that this puts us at any legal risk as long as insurance covers it. I mean, I think we've addressed all of that. But enforceability of any agreement, the reason you have a lease is to do that, to get them to show up for those 4 hours. So that's how you do it. So.
We got an event paying them next month. Okay. Let's wait a month. Any comments from the public? Discussion request for approval, oh, we already did that. The tower report.
Related, Brian, related question on, we were talking about the northwest ramp. Did they complete painting the lines to denote movement, non-movement area over there? Carlos said something about it like 4 weeks ago or something, that they
On the
were
west
doing
side,
that.
yeah.
Did they actually, okay, because I can't see good enough to see if they.
All along the west ramp, Fox Golf and Hotel.
That was on your map, wasn't it, that you sent out last week? Did we have that?
It might have been.
Probably. I don't think I discussed any painting, since I had Deerfield painted and include non-movement lines on.
I know they were working on the south ramp, and then
They did.
supposedly they were gonna do the northwest ramp too, just so it was like a visual for
It's-
pilots or vehicles to know, kind of where, as they're approaching taxiway Charlie. Because it's kind of a weird situation for people just to zip right out there on, so I was just curious. Tower report is, we had a closure of 8 or 9 days for construction, early August. And I think our numbers still kind of stayed up pretty good, even considering that. It wasn't anything like last August, of course, because we lost those days, but I think think we stayed with our numbers. Brian can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think our year-to-date numbers still stayed good compared to last year and past years even.
Yeah, 29,325 operations, which is the highest year-to-date since prior to 99 when we started keeping year-to-date figures.
We've been getting a lot of C-130 traffic again. Anytime we get pattern traffic, a chance to really try to, get as much use out of them as we can on our numbers. And been bugging Tom here to get those trainers out there, He just keeps dragging his feet on them. But now we're looking forward to a little bit more, especially in the wintertime, some pattern traffic on some of those slow days would be great, because it's an empty airport otherwise, so that'd be a great use. And I've definitely seen over time here a much more, the culture's changed on GA, wanting to use this as a fuel stop, wanting to use this, and I think I've noticed this over the past year. The culture is changing, and I think we owe Jeff Air a lot for that. We owe the self-service fuel farm for that. It's created an environment where GA wants to stop over here. They've got even another reason to do it besides the restaurant and just handing this to an airport. So from a tower standpoint, I think it's great. I don't have anything else to add from a building standpoint of our tower. You guys may notice some cost coming in. We had a roof leak a while back. We had they patched the top of the roof, and then the ceiling tiles were starting to fall where that was happening. So that's being addressed, and then I think the door issue's being addressed. Our front door, they attached a big temporary hinge up there for us to kind of hold it, but the door is really it gets all the weather. It's on the south side, it gets the sun, gets the wind, it gets the rain a lot of the time, and it's been hammered over a lot of years, and so that's another cost you may see coming up. And Brian can address that with you. Anybody have anything for me?
How many people did you have chased away when the airport was closed?
I averaged on every 8-hour shift I worked during that time, I probably had 3 average, but each 8 hours. And you just never knew. It probably came out to 2 or 3 everybody's shift, that you had to say, we're not open, you're gonna have to go somewhere else, or, and they turn around. I even had one student coming from the south. He said, well, can I just fly over and circle at once? He was still going to call it his cross country. I think he was on a student cross country. So he came over and he circled. I said, well, just don't go any lower than this. I don't want the construction people to think you're coming down the land, So he just circled it and went back south again. So, we had some interesting little things like that.
Okay. Attorney's report.
There are no new updates.
Okay, thank you. Our manager's report.
Dave is at a conference this week. You received the fire manager report from your binder there. Sounds like everything's going fine. Melons, all the melons now are picked. The cantaloupe have been filled under, and the watermelon probably will be doing that as well very soon. We were able to pick quite a few watermelons and send to local charities and local chapters, local Ed Curry. So we appreciate those guys for allowing for that.
Questions on the report? Engineer's report.
Okay, a lot's happened since last month. So AIP 26, that's the first phase of construction, that's really wrapped up, substantially complete. Right now, we're looking at about $75,000 under budget, about a week ahead of schedule. So all in all, a very good project. They do have a preliminary punch list that they're working through now, get that completed before the final inspection. We're looking to have the final inspection by the end of the month. Really want both phases to be complete before we do that, just do one shot. So we're not wasting your time as well. There is a pay request and the total cost amount, $158,682.50, primarily for Reeve Riley's work, but also a little bit of resident engineering for Wolford. Would like approval, like to request approval of that for Caleb to be able to sign so we can submit to the FAA.
And then AIP
26.
AIP 26, pay request number 6.
say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
All right, thank you. For AIP 27,
That, you just said 26, you didn't include 27.
not yet, no, I want to give you an update on 27, and then I'll ask for that one as well. Plus, that's really big, so you deserve an update on $1.7 million. Basically, construction's went really well. We did have 3 panels ripped out after they paved in the runway safety area 523. We did get some hairline cracks, had those ripped out and repaved, so all is good there. We had one blow up in your subbase, which, you know, we needed to get covered up pretty quick. Mainly, it was 90 degrees, hot, no rain, dry, everything expanded. One of your panels popped up, meaning the existing World War II panels. So we had to rip that out and bring it back in with some stone, and then get that rest of the concrete paving done. So once it's covered up, a lot less room for expansive material to occur. Currently working on widening and sealing the joints. Grooving and painting. Grooving is going to happen for sure now next Wednesday, and then painting thereafter. We're looking at about 2 days to groove the pavement, and then the painting will be about a day, maybe 2 days at most to finish that up. We are ahead of schedule and currently well over $100,000 under budget. May be some minor items that we have to still take into account. But we'll close this out under budget and ahead of schedule as well. Again, waiting to coordinate the final inspection until there's substantially completed. There is a pay request number 2 for AIP 27. $79,000 for resident engineering and construction management for Woolworth, and then $1,651,662.39 for Reeve Bradley, mainly because that's all your concrete costs over there. So the total cost on that is $1,730,957.58. Your local match, $86,548.70. I'd like to request approval for Caleb to go and sign those, so we can send those to the FAA.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Is there any questions with construction? You guys have been really quiet on construction issues. So
Been doing a really good job.
Nick, I got real quick. You said near the end of the month on inspection, and I'm not asking for an absolute date or anything, but I'm just curious, what would be a safe date you would say we start using 1432 again? Just roughly.
Yeah, it's going to be the last week of September. I
Last-
think.
yes, sometime during the last week.
I'll definitely coordinate with you and Brian on that.
No problem.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Nick, do you anticipate any pop-up surprises, or are you pretty covered?
I just had to get it covered up. We got really hot. That concrete used to be being about 55, 60 degrees all the time when it was covered up, so I just had to get it covered back up. And we were hauling really heavy trucks on it nonstop. That one panel, that whole roadway popped up. That's pretty impressive. That paper's very heavy. So, no, I don't expect any more problems at all. Not to mention, I will tell you, you got about 11 to 12 inches of concrete out there now instead of the 10 that was designed to, because the milling guys got a little carried away. We did have a little extra in the asphalt, so we were able to thicken up the ARF road to 6 inches, and then the west access road is a little thicker than it was supposed to be as well. So
Brian, we were able to use a lot of millings and stuff too.
We were able to use some. We still have a lot left, so we're going to be giving those away for volunteer hours vacation.
we've covered all our needs.
Yes, we've covered all our needs.
Great volunteer.
Thank you. Any other questions? FBO report.
Well, we also had a good month in August in spite of the fact that the runway was closed. We were still able to continue servicing the military helicopters. And so for the month of August, we took delivery on about 23,000 gallons of Jet A and another 4,000 gallons of 100 low lead. We sold 18,500 gallons of Jet A and 5,100 of 100 low lead for a total of 23,686. And so we were pretty pleased with that. And you know, we thought the guys were going to be sitting around twiddling their thumbs. And didn't happen that way. We signed a 2-year contract with a company that's going to store their antique airplanes here, and so we're pretty happy about that. As a result, we're not at liberty to, give out much information, but we are going to beef up the security in the hangar. We're going to put video cameras in there, and just as a precaution for us and anyone else, we will have better signage, and the hangar won't be quite as open as it's been in the past.
So maybe transit hangar.
Yes, and so we are pretty excited about that. We're working with a couple of other customers trying to bring in more hangar traffic of larger aircraft. We're about full of small airplanes. We've got about as many small airplanes as we put in there and still have room for larger planes. So that'll be coming up pretty soon. We're winding down on our negotiations with Andy Ziegler, Eagle Avionics, and hopefully by this time next month they will be in their new facilities and operating on the east end of the field. Other than that, things continue to go well.
What about Top Flight?
Top Flight, they're moved in and they're working. They don't have as many customers as they thought they might. They've been trying to get some of their customers from Cincinnati to come over here, and they're not moving. So I think they're a little bit discouraged about that, but we're going to hang fire and see what happens and work with them as much as we can, as long as we can.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Pardon?
It's absolutely worth it to help them where we can.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we just really feel that they can make a good contribution. And but we're in a good position to have facilities for any maintenance facility who wants to come and join us.
Okay, thank you. Financial report.
September financial statement, you can see, I saw it exactly earlier. Our year-to-date percentage expended total is 67%, which is what we should be for September. Our ending cash for the month of September should be at $3,168,472.31.
Way to go.
Oh, you might like that statement.
Don't get too excited.
Yeah. It's been inching up. So any questions on September statement? Next one will be our profit and loss. Next, we had a discussion earlier on this, where Steve was concerned that it would appear that we were down this year from last year, but we had the terminal remodel, so that took a large chunk of money.
I continue to get absolutely glowing positive comments on the terminal remodel.
Yes.
There's, believe it or not, people that haven't been out to see it yet, and when they come out and see it, they're just blown away. And this is from all segments, aviation users and non-users alike, locals and transit.
And then our fire profit and loss statement.
I remember, Steve, your question on this farm profit and loss statement was where we were last year compared to this year. One of the things you see this year were slightly less was because 2014, early in 2014, we sold the seed corn.
Right.
And I talked to Bonnell, and that was one of the reasons why. So we sold 2013 seed corn in early 2014, and we don't have as much seed corn production as we in 2014.
I thought we had completely out seed corner was just a little.
Well, so there's, what you see in this
Oh,
year
the overlap.
was 2014 seed corn. This year we won't have that, because we're at the bottom. And we don't have the self-fuel numbers for you. We did sell approximately 1,700 gallons, but it was an issue on trying to get those out of the system. As to someone who knew the system left now. We didn't know how to get into the system very well.
And David Westberger asked, I need to ask you about 10 gallons from
unequals.
Oh,
I said, call Brian, he knows how to talk.
yeah. We'll get those numbers to you next month, though.
So the fuel's still staying on track with.
Yeah, and in fact, we actually are fairly low in the region right now. We're selling at 439, so we're fairly low in the region. We kind of dropped it down right after it was maybe a week or so after the opening of the runway, and we were pretty light on operations, so we kind of made a decision we were going to drop it a little lower. In fact, you can purchase fuel right now at a ridiculous price, so we're trying to get it out of the thing because we can buy it for a whole lot cheaper.
So we did a pretty good, as I recall, you did a real good job on this current load that's in there.
We did, yeah. So we can do even better in the next load. I can get it quickly.
Yeah, I just want to say something, reference that fuel thing with Tom here too. From a tower standpoint, I've worked in a lot of places with double FBOs and such, with competition on the field, things like that. And I want to know if you ever hear anything, or you ever, one of the controllers or anything like that, they've been instructed to tell about the fuel that's available. Out of the trucks available at the ramp, or self-serve at the Shell sign on the west end, or something to that effect. So no, no recommendations on where they should go or anything like that. Even when every now and then a pilot will try to get in there and try to say, hey, where do we get fuel? So what I'm getting at is, if you think anybody's ever maybe saying something in YouTube, if you hear a controller say something like, I like the way he said that, or recommended the fuel or something, let me know, would you please? And
I was
just
always very suspicious because the controller voice is not a lot like Tom's voice.
Self-service is out right now.
oh gosh.
That big arrow in the tower.
Yeah. And that sign.
Free food if you go this way.
And that Phillips sign lighted.
Well, just to add to that, I think, I keep the radio on when I'm here, so I like to listen to the traffic, and, I do hear people specifically say, where's the self-serve system? And say, oh, it's the white shell sign over there.
Right.
But I think that one thing, a lot of times it might be a question of a pilot. They say, hey, who's the FBO? Where do I go? Hey, I call the Unicom, they didn't answer.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I will hear the controller say, hey, you're going to call them on the phone for you and see if I can get them, which I know you guys don't have to do.
No.
I think that's a really nice
I think
thing.
we've been good about that here
Yeah.
for a long time, about trying to work stuff like that out.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, well, I would appreciate that as a pilot who doesn't have access to a phone
Very good.
handily and, wants to get somebody, to make that call.
Right.
So, thank you. Okay, any other questions on that? On the financial report? Okay, airport director's report.
Been working with the gentleman on a possible lacrosse facility for our non-traditional sports area. So just want to kind of keep you up to date on that. We're looking at a formal plan, putting the formal plan together to bring before the airport board before
What do you define as non-traditional sports area?
lacrosse, well, we defined it to the, I think you want to show them there, to the left side.
This area.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I misinterpreted saying outside here, non-traditional sports like BMX. Gotcha. I'm with you.
Yeah, so lacrosse, cricket,
Yeah.
those kinds of places seem like they really need a home right now. And so we've been approached by a lacrosse gentleman representing the lacrosse club. We're working to get some prices on what it would be to put together a preliminary plan from Wolford and another company as well. So we'll get a plan in place, and then before we move towards BCA, we'll have to get approval from them before we do that. Just to let you know that's what.
Oh, is that because it's conditional use?
It's conditional use. It's not permanent use yet.
Which is normally not a program, but it's kind of stopped as sort of safety.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it allows everyone that's on the west side there additional opportunities.
Brian, is there some kind of synergy between this and the CPSC?
I think they're definitely going to use it in the winter time, yeah. Yeah, they've showed a lot.
We have seen in the indoor facility in Center Grove, right? And so there's a natural cross-pollination of the two, just because you need space indoors. And that's why, as I suggested, that, our facility is going to be pretty generic in nature and really just be a turf area that can be utilized for multiple sports. they can come in there.
Have you spoken with the gentleman Brian's talking about?
I have not about this. I think he's the same gentleman that does the hockey as well. But I don't know that. That would be something we can certainly follow up on.
Be worth tying together, maybe at least find out.
Well, yeah, they're looking for outdoor space, but they're certainly looking for indoor space in the wintertime.
Chip, will the entire indoor facility be artificial turf or is this hard surface also?
There'll be a perimeter, but 90% of it will be turf area. And then the thought process is, the drawings that we have is that there will be, if you can imagine a square building, there'll be a butt out, so to speak, that'll have storage and restrooms on the front or the side of the site to fit it into the site.
And they're also looking into, as a possibility, expansion as well.
Yeah, one thing I failed to mention is that the size that we're currently, I hesitate to use this analogy, but it's one that always comes to my mind. You know, as soon as you build a jail, it's, you know, already too small. The intent, yeah, so I do believe that once we build this facility and people see it in real life, that, you know, there'll be people coming to ask how to use it. So we are going to design it in such a manner that we can mirror the original one on just going straight back with it from that standpoint. So the thing I didn't mention is we do have plans drawn already for the facility. We've got some bids that have come back in, and we're reviewing those as well from that standpoint.
This will be totally self-contained, not funded by parks, it's totally soccer, totally organization.
It'll be funded by private donations, correct? There's no public dollars that I'm aware of that are available to go into that facility.
Any other questions?
I'll carry on to the, I've drafted a letter, which I submitted to the airport for on tower funding, Syntex, Major General Authority Guard, Indian Air National Guard. We've also started having conversations with our local senators and congressmen. So we're really hoping to continue to push the control tower project. So I'll let you know, there's been some really good information shared. You look at good, say something.
Well, I'm not a pilot, not an aviation expert. I understood that we ran the risk of having the last new tower constructed on planet Earth because
No,
of next gen.
For small airports. Yeah, for airports of our size.
So I knocked that tower off my list of things I was anticipating. I guess should be off of it.
You tell me.
I think we want to keep on this.
Yeah, I think it's also good next
The
generation.
reason I went off the list before was the whole tower funding, non-federal tower funding debate, last budget crisis. But there are some interesting potential developments in the future that could make this a neat way to go and not as costly.
Okay.
We'll work on it. I'll let you know.
Well, that will too. That's still on.
Update on student housing. So Melinda and I attended a meeting with the schools and developer. Everything on their side seems to be going really well. So they're very happy. Seems like
Brian, what's the total number of beds, 114?
112 beds.
Are they about where they projected they would be?
I think they're slightly under. They're more than 50% full, but slightly under where they projected they would be at this point.
And this is for school years, not
This-
about intern.
Yes, this is the first, but this is the first semester. I think they'll get there. They're really excited about where they're at now. Item number 4. So in the last couple of weeks, I've been working with Peter Show performer Billy Worth. I don't know if anyone's aware of him or not. He's from up in the Indianapolis area. He's been talking with me and requesting a practice box on our airfield to do some practicing. Estimating 4 to 6 times a year by him. He said that others may be interested in a practice box as well. We haven't finalized anything, we haven't discussed it too much more than he's shared this practice box with me. And just want to let you know that that's something that we're working towards right now, so if you want to think about it, I'm sure you'll have conversations with friends and things, so you may talk to them too of other interests.
Would that be from the ground up or elevation to elevation, or altitude to altitude?
I'm sure it would be ground up. I haven't asked what it's out. He did say that he would work with the tower, so if there's Cummins in.
Do you have one of those for me by chance? An
Yeah.
extra? Right here, Ben.
I'd like to see, yeah. I think that actually started in 1800. I've set up a bunch of them up in North Carolina, so if you want to chat some about some of the things we ran into,
Yeah, I don't know. Billy's the one that's been running, kind of discussing it with me, and I guess he's the one that's going to take it with his though if we would agree to it. But something that we're talking about. So again, think about it. There may be some other questions or concerns that may arise.
What did you say the top altitude was?
I didn't say.
Oh, you didn't say, okay.
Item number 5, a group wants to host a Dale Carnegie training in our large conference room down here Wednesday afternoons in January and February. Talked with them, and I didn't know what your thoughts would be on proposing the exchange of meeting space to allow attendees from our office to go to the training.
Don't like it.
Yeah, I can see that it's coming.
I mean, I think we're just gonna set ourselves up for everybody's gonna
Yeah,
wanna
for an
trade,
additional
trades.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, and in this case, I don't think any of us went out and solicited Dale Carnegie
No.
saying, oh yeah, we'd love to go to your event. It's just them wanting some free space.
If it was in kind, not in kind, if it were, material we could use or services or something, I wouldn't have any issue. This is pretty soft.
Okay, I will let them know. You may have noticed our maintenance staff are out painting the teen hangers this week, so that's a project I know we've been wanting to get done for quite a while. I gave a presentation to the Women's Service League today that were down here, and Therese was here with them. Just about aviation day particularly, they were really interested in kind of assisting us with the future of our aviation day and volunteers for that. Item 8, there will be running 2 different running events this month that are shut down airport roads, roads around the airport. Rather, the first one is this weekend, which will really only shut down the area around Station 2. They will have manned people at Kelly Street along Arnold to kind of take them back to the south and then hit Pochard and come back through the middle into Rayville.
Are they coming around Central to Kelly and then south and then over to?
They pretty much stay on airport property for this one.
Yeah, down there, are they coming up Central or over to Kelly and then down south again?
If vehicles come along Arnold Street, they would take them back to Pochard and around. The run, they're only really shutting down the roads right in front of Station 2 though.
Yeah, basically right in front of the fire station.
Oh,
It's
okay.
being shut down.
But for the Mill Race Marathon, we've got bigger shutdowns than normal. So the Cunningham from essentially River Road over to Central will be completely shut down this year. So I've got some drawings of where you can and cannot drive. Everything along River is only going to be northbound, all the way essentially from probably Rocky Ford north. It's only going to be northbound. So everybody will need to be aware of that weekend.
But the west, that road that's over there is accessible.
It is.
It's been freshly
Yeah.
topped up, okay, so
Yeah.
less of a problem getting in and out of
Item 9 there, I think the board.
there. Before you do that, the West Ramp tenants kind of know, but does like Cummins know that that's going to be shut down?
I don't know they do. I did draft a map up that I'm
I
going to
think we
show
should at
you.
least email or notify as many people on the west side as possible about that closure, even though we're not the ones closing the road, this is probably like that.
Yep. Yep, I'll get on those. Item number 9, I think the board is probably aware that Carlos had submitted his letter of resignation last week to pursue other opportunities. So he thanked the airport board for allowing him to play such a vital role in the airport. I think he really did a fantastic job for us, so we appreciate his work. We'll be advertising for that position and also a part-time maintenance position that we have available right now as well.
Is that a backfill?
Yes, yeah, we've had.
But it's been open for a while?
It's been open for a long while, we just can't get it filled with anybody that wants to work. So Yes, that one we're trying to find, to get filled, especially before the winter time, because those are the guys that plow all the snow for us. And then October.
Is that part-time hours or days or?
It's part-time hours, 24 hours. Typically, they work 3 8-hour days or 5 5-hour days. We kind of let them pick and choose how they work.
Is that job open for submission now or? Are you not?
Yes.
So anyone could apply?
Yes.
Do they go on the city website or?
Yes. Then our October board meeting will conflict with the Aviation Association of Indiana meeting. I would propose that we host the airport board meeting 1 week later than typical next month. Give you a date on that, sorry. So we typically would have held it October 13th. I would request that we host the board meeting on October the 20th. And I guess I also, I think I've already talked about it, but I'd like to approve BOAC for the entire session. And then if you'd all like to join, I know we do have the FAA meeting. It's not yet been scheduled, but we are requesting for it to be held on Thursday afternoon.
I'll fly up for that meeting if anyone wants to go. You don't have to commit now, I'm just throwing it out there. But we do need, it's a fascinating, you'll miss all the pavement analysis stuff, but we'll be there just in time for grants. We do need a formal change of the board meeting time for next month, though.
I move we change the board meeting from the 13th to the 20th
Of October.
of October, sorry.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Any other discussion or questions from Ryan? Anything else from the board? Anything else from the public? Hearing nothing.
I move we adjourn.
Okay, we are adjourned.